adults and elders too. I get one story here I cook up just for you. So gather around, come, grab yourself a seat. Cause this story gonna be juicy like okra soup with plenty meat. The name of this story is called Anansi and the Silk Cotton Tree. It was a sweltering Friday afternoon in Nassau. The coconut trees looked parched like Benny and you could burl conquer ocean. The spongy men were making their way up from the wharf with their empty croaker sacks with faces longer than a Baptist preacher's sermon. It had been another week of hard labor and too little to no money earned to feed their families yet again, as most of their earnings had to go to Lord Simonetti, the owner of the sponging schooners. By all means, Lord Simonetti was a very greedy man, a bigoty man, and a conniving one too, so much so that all his deeds showed on his ugly face that was filled with lumpe camoli and a spread nose that could fit the Christchurch Cathedral and its bell tower. But besides being all of these things, there was one thing that surpassed them all: his greed to be able to practice magic of all kinds. He had made his way to Nassau from France after learning about his grandfather's sponging fortune with hopes of encountering the same. When he arrived in Nassau, he had but a few pieces of gold fleur-de-lis trinkets which he stole from an aristocrat back in his hometown. He would then sell these trinkets to one of the Greek brothers who owned much of the land in front of the Nassau harbor, and by doing so, he was able to purchase himself 3 schooners, which he named the Dilly, the Hall Plum, and the Ganap, after a few of the locals' favorite native fruits. Now mind you, he didn't know much about sponging, much less boating. So he did what most crooked men do, and he found another crooked man who he could swing into becoming his local business partner. A local man who knew the ins and outs of the sponging trade. And by damn, could you believe he got the most crookedest of them all? A local swinger and trickster by the name of Barabi. Now Barabi was so good at he could swing the food out your mouth after you chew it up before you done swallow. Now the locals did know Barabi no good ways and knew that he would sell his own ma if given a chance. So when he approached them about Lord Simonetti's bidding, they were wary, but they had long been hungry and figured that they had been given an ounce of salvation. Man, Barabi swing them locals so hard at the end of his recruitment, he had everybody singing, "Sponge your money, never done, you got sponge your money. Laugh, gal, laugh, ha ha. Laugh, gal, laugh, laugh, gal. Laugh, gal, laugh, cause you got sponge your money. Sponge your money, never done, we getting sponge your money. Sponge your money, gonna be fun, we getting sponge your money." Now, it had only been 7 months since Lord Simonette's business got off the ground, and the locals was already at their wits' end. Every Friday afternoon, they would gather under the great silk cotton tree to air out their grievances before they tended to their rituals with the local tribal chief Anansi. Anansi was revered by all of the townspeople, as he was the oldest and the wisest that any of them had ever knew. Somehow, Anansi came to be in Nassau with the arrival of the sacred silk cotton tree that arrived from South Carolina back in the 1600s. You see, the silk cotton tree wasn't no regular tree. It too was revered amongst the locals, as it was said to be the dwelling place of the sacred old bear spirits that aided in the townspeople protection, well-being, and good luck. Not only was the silk cotton tree the home of the spirits, but it was a sort of a courthouse where all the natives would gather to settle their disputes, and which they called the cotton tree law. It was also where they talk about the latest gap seed, and the tree also acted as its own apothecary due to its medicinal uses and healing properties. But little did the townspeople know the tree was actually a portal. And that is how Anansi traveled between time and worlds. You see, Anansi was practically immortal because he had long made a long deal a long time ago with one of the Akan chiefs to become the tribe's griot, a keeper of all their stories and magic for all time. Now, little did the Akan chief know that he made a deal with a spider, as Anansi had the ability to shapeshift into any form he desired. And for this deal, he chose a wealthy middle-aged farmer. But that's another story for another time. Lord Simonetti loathed Anansi because Anansi was a very powerful Obeah man, and he could not figure out Anansi's Obeah secrets. Obeah was commonly practiced amongst the townspeople as a means of healing illnesses with the native bush medicines, protection from any evil spirits, bad luck, bad Obeah, or harm. And every now and again, if you was really smart, but if you was stupid and spiteful, it allowed you to fix someone as a means of punishment for any petty grievance that they may have done to you. However, if the spirits of the silk cotton tree learned of any fixing due to any personal malice, then they too would teach the fixer a lesson by fixing them too. Now, on this particular Friday, a local spongerman by the name of Ezekiel was airing his grievance about Lord Simonetti to Anansi. "What, Anansi?" he said angrily. "It done been 66 years we come out of slavery. Where this man think he going to try put us back in slavery again?" Now, unbeknownst to the gatherers under the silk cotton tree, Lord Simonetti had Barabi there acting like he was infuriated too, along with the angry crowd, just so he could talk back all the sip of what was being said. Now, Anansi, in all of his wisdom, didn't pick up that Barabi was there spying, as he hatched a plan to get rid of Lord Simonetti for his oppression and mistreatment of the spongerman for good. Nah, I done talk with the spirit them of this tree, and all them agree that this thiefiness man gotta go, proclaimed Anansi. Now hear what we can hurry do. All of you in a sponger men, you can hurry get one young fowl. Make sure you ain't never lay no egg now. One big candle, some pin with the head get all kind of different color, and 9 candle apart from the big one, mine. You can pour some moonshine on the candle, and then you got stick a pin in the candle. Barabi, intrigued at these instructions, listened intently as Anansi carefully went through the spell step by step. He concluded saying, "Now we can hurry in like this. Lord Simonetti, you are gone forever from the flesh and bones and the places and people that you know. Amen." Now we all gotta say the same thing at the same time, so I can tell you that part couple more times so you to make sure I get it right. Now, but Robbie got way more than a mouthful. He nearly choked as he cunningly slipped away and pretended to go tell Lord Simonetti news. "They can kill you! They can kill you!" was all he managed to scream out upon arriving at the wharf where Lord Simonetti was laying low in one of his schooners. "What nonsense you talking, old fool," said Lord Simonetti. But Robbie then tried to catch his breath and gathered himself and explained the plan in its entirety to Lord Simonetti. "Ah, so these dumb island conks think they can kill me with their unstructured magic? Ah, well, I will show them who got the real magic around here. Kill me with Obeah? Preposterous!" He wickedly laughed. So Lord Simonetti and Barabi come up with a plan of their own to outsmart Anansi and get rid of him, seeing as how he was the glue that kept the community together through Obeah. If Lord Simonetti couldn't learn Obey on his own volition, he had to get rid of Anansi and the Obey once and for all. So later that night, he went home and he rummaged through some of his stolen grimoires and came up with a plan of his own. And of course he didn't share the plan with Barabi, as he knew he couldn't be trusted. He just needed Barabi to lure Anansi into the trap. As day cleaned the next day, he told Barabi that he had just come across a most magnificent and mighty concorn, and he needed somebody to demonstrate to him how to blow it. Now everybody no man had breath like Anansi. He could blow hurricane out of conch shell. So Anansi, never one to shy away from putting on a show, obliged when Barabi asked him to show Lord Simonet how to blow the concorn. And so he followed him to the thick bushes west of the island where he would meet his fate. As soon as Anansi blew into the concorn, his entire body got sucked into the conch shell, becoming trapped with no way out. Barabi eye nearly ran out his head when he saw what happened, and he was dripping with cold sweat. Following instructions by Lord Simonetti, he threw the conch shell in one banana hole, where it was guaranteed to never ever be found. Lord Simonetti had used an old German grimoire that allowed for the conch shell to be used as a time capsule and a time trap, trapping the soul and body of any person who blew into it within that time frame. In order for the spell to be reversed, someone from a different time and era would have to blow into the conch shell to release the trapped person. Now the day finally came on the night of the full moon to get rid of Lord Simonetti once and for all, and the Sponger men anxiously gathered under the silk cotton tree with all items in tow. But guess what? Anansi ain't never show. Mother sick. This a big pretty conch shell, eh? Just gotta have one big pearl in her hair, you can sell them downtown, said Cersei, who had just stumbled across the exquisite shell during an exploration of an old coppice forest where she found it in the banana hole. Now, Cersei was told at the beginning of the tour that nothing was allowed to be taken from the forest grounds as it was a national park. But being a little cunning trickster herself, she hurriedly stuffed the shell into her knapsack where nobody was looking. Now, it wasn't until a few weeks later, when the university had closed due to the city being locked down because of COVID-19, did she retrieve the conch shell from its hiding place where she hid it. Now, Cersei was a precocious city girl, but island girl at heart, with a tongue like gold pepper and a mind so sharp she could almost give Anansi a run-fee money. She loved to hear old stories, and little did she know, tonight would be the night that she would be weaved into a story alongside the greatest weaver of stories, whose character shape-shifted across time, webbing different cultures and different spaces, a story of a rich, sacred ancestral science and practice that she had been far removed from and taught to fear. A sacred practice that was extremely misunderstood and now illegal. So she went outside in her backyard and she sat under a hog plum tree and she started playing with the conch shell. Well, monkey foot! I just see this a concorn. Child, let me see if I can blow in this. Cersei blew with all her might. And the next thing she know, a huge black scary looking spider with 8 big legs looking like dreadlocks was crawling on her thigh. Oh Lord, the poor gal passed out from fright. Now, when she came to, she saw an old, withery man standing before her with 8 thick gray dreadlocks draped in cowrie shells over a crocodile shirt and a flower bag pants. "Mister, how the hell you get in my pie yard standing in front of me?" she exclaimed. Still trying to gather himself as Anansi had never seen any young girl dressed this way, and his surroundings seemed so unfamiliar, he asked, "How far is from the silk cotton tree?" "The what?" Cersei asked. "Mister, I don't even know what that is. But what I do know is you better get stepping and fast before my daddy come home because he's the police." Just then, Cersei remembered the nightly curfew and told Anansi if he were to be seen roaming the streets at that hour and without a mask, that he would surely be thrown in jail. So she snuck him into her father's tool shed. Anansi, not quite comprehending what he was being told, then asked Cersei where he was, and she told him Millennium Gardens. "Millennium Gardens? I don't know no Millennium Gardens." "Well, where that is, last I know I was in Nassau," said Anansi. "Mister, you got Alzheimer's, eh? Millennium Gardens in Nassau," said Cersei. Now Anansi was still was confused, so he asked her what year it was. And when she said 2020, Anansi nearly froze stiff. "Damn, you mean I done been gone 100 years?" Cersei let out a vulgar laugh and say, "Mister, I know who you is or where you come from. All I know is you sound crazy, but you've been gone for 100 years. You best be gone before my daddy come home in the morning." So, Anansi, being the quick thinker that he was, decided that it was time to charm her with a story. And Cersei loved her some good stories. And besides, it wasn't nothing else to do. Cersei would learn of Anansi and how he came to be from the Akan peoples. She would learn of the great silk cotton tree and of the nefarious colonizer Lord Simonetti, that conniving, ugly Frenchman who loved to exploit magic and people, and how he came to Nassau and managed to swing the group of local sponger men, so much so that the sponger men had planned on fixing him. But of course, he would have flying out about the plan through that old no-good crooked Barabi, who would help him to swing the sponger man and also help him to trick Anansi and trap him in time in the conch shell. Now, had passed and Cersei's eye was still shining like kerosene lamp as she listened to Anansi school her on the sacred wisdom and origins of Old Bear, when she said, wait. Hold up. You mean to tell me the sacred silk cotton tree come to Nassau from South Carolina back in the 1600s, and that's how you get here because the tree was a portal? And the tree gets sacred spirits living in it, and the townspeople used to have court under the tree? Yes, said Anansi. We called it the cotton tree law. And it used to give you all cotton tree medicine, continued Cersei. And Barabi find out the plan and then go and tell Lord Simonetti that all no good Barabi. And so hold on, if I did never blow in this conch shell, you would have never come out? Wow. You mean all this time my Grammy them didn't know but Old Bear told us they know but mush medicine, and that's why they named me Cersei? Miss Anansi, I need to learn more. But first, let's help you find this tree. So she pulled out her cell phone and proceeded to pull up Google when Anansi nearly knocked her phone out of her hand from fright. What in the name of them bother that is, he screamed. Miss Anansi, or whatever you name, you're gonna need to chill the hell out if you want my help, alright? See how you almost break my good iPhone? Huh. Just think of this like a modern day Old Bear, because they can do everything. Now, Early the next morning, after spending most of the night listening to Sarah C. ramble on about the strange new modern world and time he now find himself in, he set out to find the silk cotton tree using the directions that Sarah C. had obtained from Google and written down for him. But first, he needed to find him a young fowl, a ripe dilly, and some pond bush to use as an offering for the spirits of the silk cotton tree. So as he wandered around the Nassau that once was, he was so amazed to see how strange the place had become and how extremely jam up it was. What was more even confusing to him was the fact that everybody could breathe in these funny looking masks, because he tried to wear the one Sarah C. gave him earlier and he nearly choked to death off his foul breath. Realizing he was running out of time, he then found himself in a tuck shop over the hill where he saw a most beautiful woman he just knew he could charm. So he used his wits by telling her a story about a COVID healing soup he was concocting, but how he didn't have any more money to get the items he needed. Feeling sorry for Anansi, the young woman agreed to take him for the items he needed. Anansi, being in the car for the first time and almost zoning out, recognized the silk tree and passing when he said, "Let me out here, let me out here!" So the woman stopped and let off Anansi in front of the silk cotton tree, and he thanked her for her kindness. Anansi immensely and immediately got caught up in the spirit. He felt his knees on the great big roots of the tree and started singing, "I came down on a lightning bolt, 9 months in my mama's belly." Silence. Anansi ain't hear nothing, as he expected the leaves of the silk cotton tree to do their usual rustling. So he sang louder, "I came down on a lightning bolt, 9 months in my mama's belly." Still nothing. Now Nancy started growing vexed because the tree wasn't responding to its incantation. So he figured he'd sacrifice the fowl and sing the incantation simultaneously. Just as he was about to ring the fowl nap, he heard some strange noises accompanied by some strange red and blue lights flickering. Two police officers hopped out of their vehicle, shining lights on Anansi. The biggest and biggest one of the two shout out, "Old man, what the hell you doing out here with this chicken in your hand like this? You don't obey." "Yes! Yes! Obey!" Anansi excitingly exclaimed, still confused as to what was going on, but somehow thinking that the police officers could help him. So he kept on rambling belligerently about trying to awaken the spirits of the silk cotton tree. Spirits? Obey? You out there practicing obey like you know obey illegal? Come, you lock up. Officer 1010 forcefully cuffed Anansi and threw him in the back of the police car, angrily mumbling, "I mean, this old man out here practicing obey like he head ain't no friggin' good. Now see, I done tell these darn people don't give me this obey badge number, you know. Now look, I come and cross obey for true. Well, mother take sick. Just wait till I tell Sarah see this." And just as the police car was pulling off and Anansi still had his eyes fixed back, he saw Lord Simonetti coming out of the great silk cotton tree. Banbo Ben. My story here done end. Now if you want to hear this again or next one, you better tell all your friends. Now, a few weeks later, Anansi found himself in court for the first time in front of some modern day judges. And here is Sarah C. to state his witness. Ladies and gentlemen of this court, this is my first time in the court, and I here today against my father's wishes, Officer 1010, to stand witness and give account for Anansi, who is being wrongfully accused of practicing no bail, which is a natural way of his living and being, and the way of your ancestors, and my ancestors, and their ancestors. Anansi is a sovereign and free, living, breathing, cosmic deity who transcends and exists outside of your elusive notions of time, limited logic, and alien indoctrinations set up to colonize beings like him with your unlawful legal system. Because he isn't bound by your unnatural laws, you label him a trickster in your polarized and binary way of thinking. And because you fail to comprehend even an ounce of his ancient cunning and cosmic wisdom, a way of being that allowed your ancestors to be able to survive all of their inhumane oppression by these same lords and their draconian system, which now have you debating whether or not Anansi deserves reparations. What a dishonor to your ancestors' lineage and legacy. Pay me, oh, pay me what you owe me. Pay me, oh, pay me what you owe me. Pay me all them reparations, oh yeah, pay me. Pay me for all of my ancestors. Pay me. Van Gogh. Now this story finally ends. Blessings.